Good day, this is Sinta Ebersohn from Fair Divorce, and we're having another interesting conversation today. With me is Ethan Smith from upstate New York, and he's going to tell his story, share his experiences, and what he's done and how he's been involved with parental alienation. Ethan, thank you so much for being here and joining this conversation.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Please tell us as much as you're comfortable with. What is your personal story? How did you happen to be where you are today?
So I was originally born in Illinois, Illinois in the States, and my mother and father weren't married. My mother kidnapped me from my father. False allegations. She brought me to New York, and basically that was my first experience with parental alienation. For 17 years or so, I grew up, and I met my dad when I was about 20, 21 years old. So, you know, there's the upbringing of hearing all of the defensive remarks about my father. You know, they weren't really negative, but they were enough to attack that bond between me and my father. So
goodness,
so,
can
yeah.
I just ask, did I hear correctly you only met your father when you were in your early 20s?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So from the age of 3.5 to 20 or 21, I was alienated, you know, from my father. So
goodness.
yeah.
Wow.
So that brought about its own challenges, which, you know, I spent years in therapy working on. But I met my bride in high school. She chased me. I was dating someone else, and I said, "I'm sorry, I can't, you know, pursue you." And later on, after high school, she pursued me again, and I was working actually, I was unemployed at the time. And so I brought her lunch because I think I was unemployed or just starting a job. And, you know, we talked for 24 hours straight. It was just incredible. And, but that's really changed after I got married. We moved down to New York City. She was a dog walker, and I was in information technology. I travel a bit when needed, but basically, you know, I worked, she worked, and we had a nice life together. But you know, there was some matters that I can't discuss, which happened, which put a strain on our relationship. And so I got us into pastoral counseling as soon as I found out. And so for the entire marriage, I've been married 19 years. And throughout that, there's been there's been pastoral counseling and care. So I felt like we were in good hands. What happened to trigger everything? I was on a cruise in the Caribbean in January of 2020 for my wife's 40th birthday. And that's when she said she no longer wanted to be married. Now, I have a 13-year-old daughter, a 11-year-old son, and a 7-year-old daughter. And yeah, it was very, very difficult to swallow. And I just didn't understand. She said there were no positive memories in the entire marriage. And so that, you know, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, you know, what about this? What about that? What about this and that? And then I went through all of these wonderful experiences, and it made her cry further. So I just, you know, I said, I need to stop because I'm making this worse. So so 5 months later, I found out there was another thing that was going on in the marriage, and basically I went back to the church again. And that's when everything changed. I got served June 10th, 2020. Yeah, 2020. So about a year ago. And after that, the behavior was erratic, and I was looking at this and trying to understand what was going on. And I was still in counseling. And then there was a domestic incident, which I called in. July 29th, 2020. and it involved my son. And so we were out taking a walk, and I had called the police because of what had happened. And so that report was to the police and CPS, and that night she took the kids out of the house and moved into a motorhome, her parents' motorhome in our driveway. And so that was the first day that I really, lost control of my children. And that's when their personalities started changing from bitter to, from beautiful and loving and just a wonderful relationship to bitter and negative and attacking and just very, very different. And I didn't know what was going on. I mean, at that point, I had just lawyered up, and my lawyer said it sounds like parental alienation. And so that was the first experience of, okay, now I need to go figure this out. I need to Google this. I need to go, understand this in its entirety. And we asked for court evaluation, and it was scheduled, and it was like 5 or 6, 7 months. It was actually happened in 2021. So it was quite painful to wait all that time to not have the children. I had some visitation, and then I got court-ordered visitation, but I saw their behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
And the behavior changed in such a way where, like, my daughter would come in for visitation and say, Daddy, I don't believe all the things Mommy's telling me about you or saying about you, all the bad things that you're doing to us. And I'm like, good, honey. I'm glad you feel that way. I said, Daddy loves you. And it's always been a beautiful, I've got tons of photos on Facebook shared publicly of just the delightful time experience the kids growing up. Other things, like my son would come in and he'd be stuck in the minivan for 2 hours and wouldn't come in. And my daughter said, Aiden, my daughter said, my son said, he's afraid that you're going to kill him in the middle of the night. And that just shocked me. And I said, okay, well, what do you think about that? Because I didn't want to defend it. I didn't want to, just be defensive myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, well, obviously you wouldn't do that. Duh. And this is my 7-year-old. And I'm like, well, thank you, Sarah. I'm glad you feel that. I'm glad you understand. So he came in, my son came in, my 11-year-old, and he sat on the couch, almost in a fetal position, but holding his arms around his knees, rocking back and forth with his hood on and his coat on, and just rocking back and forth. And this is like, this is trauma. This is something when somebody's experienced something, and this is all outside my care. So this is not happening. Something I've done, something I'm in control of. This is not who he is. And so things progressively got worse and worse. I started calling them every day earlier this year because that was just on my heart, that they needed to see consistency from me and love, continued love. So the psychological report, custody evaluation happened, and it was manipulated, and they didn't read all the information that I provided, and it was I have to dispute it now. So it's just another layer of the cards in this huge house of cards, smoke and mirrors, I would call it.
Mm-hmm. So. Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that you've been having such a difficult time, Ethan. This is really painful to go through this, to see your children almost change personalities in front of your eyes, and you have no part in it. Very, very difficult.
It is. And I've struggled to find out and understand parental alienation. I've used so many different resources. So many different books, so many different doctors, so many different articles and resources on Facebook. So the resources are out there to help us understand what is happening to our children.
Hmm. There's a lot of information available out there, but not so much how to curb it, how to stop it once it happens, because it's almost unrealistic. It's almost surreal what happens when these things start playing out. Not so.
Yeah.
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 So in your experience, I've heard you describe now how you're going the legal route. You lawyered up and you're doing like the one thing after the other, sort of following the protocol, the process to the best of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that that's effective? Do you feel that it's going to get you somewhere?
No, absolutely not. What I saw was bills for tens of thousands of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
many of them, and I paid as many as I could. The court system then took my income. I'm absolutely willing to support my family.
Mm-hmm.
I make a good amount of money. Some might call it a ridiculous amount of money, but I mean, that's their perception. I can definitely support one household,
Mm-hmm.
family of five, but I cannot support two households with a family of five. And so the burden um, of the child support and the spousal support, I think I was paying $7,000 a month, leaving me about $1,800 to live off. I was paying for her van and two mortgages, bills, and then lawyer fees. And I'm under, basically I'm upside down on everything. So it basically seems to be a system that locks you into indentured servitude, forces you to be, a financial slave. And it doesn't make sense, because our children need more support than just financial. They need physical support. They need emotional support. They need
Mm-hmm.
psychological, support. They need love.
Yes,
And,
most of all, those
yeah.
are the things that they need.
And that's one of the things that I think is you don't know how to combat this entity inside our children that's kind of possessing them. You have to love it out. You can't be defensive. You can't um, uh, uh, hit them with the truth. You can't speak negatively of the other parent or disparage them. You have to love and almost be like I would say like a Teflon cooking surface, a nonstick cooking surface.
Yes,
Anything they throw at you just slides right off. It doesn't. Don't let it in, because it's not your children that's saying these things.
that's true.
So
That's easier said than done. But I love your expression. You've just got to love it out, because that's basically what you can do. And it's very important not to behave in a way that enforces the lies that are being told about you.
yeah, well, and that's really difficult when it's a financial. When the
Mm-hmm.
lies are financial, always not provide. Well, dad didn't have a job. Dad, not only came back from a cruise. I came back from the cruise with a broken marriage, but I lost my job the following week.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then 2020, the whole crisis happened. So it was,
Yes.
so, the children don't have any realistic understanding of finances.
Mm-hmm.
They only believe what their parents tell them, and teach them. So, I remember one time, just after the domestic incident, we were required to get them, um, basically seen by a medical professional.
Mm-hmm.
And during that medical professional, evaluation, the my oldest daughter was standing outside the room with me, and she was hysterical, and she was saying, "Daddy, why do you want to give us vaccines? They give us cancer." And I'm like, "Where did you learn that from?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, my children were on a delayed vaccination because of health issues. My youngest has a rare food allergy. I fought to change the law in New York State, the insurance law, because the insurance companies were using a loophole. So I love my children. I would do anything for them, and just to see this happen, and all the things that I've done for them and sacrificed for them. I mean, like, I can't control this. It breaks my heart.
Yes, I can imagine. Wow. Yes, and the things that they come up with are really absurd in some instances, not so.
Yes, absolutely. Now, there is one thing that I would caution parents, um, and I didn't understand it. There were two women that were just caring enough to help me understand and had the intuition. I'm trying not to tear up right now. So after my children moved out, like last year, my eldest wanted her own room. And I said, honey, I'm looking for work. I don't have time to do this. I can see this happening in maybe a year, 2 years. And when they all moved out, all of a sudden I had all this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just gotten a new job as well. So I had the time, and I said, I want to win her heart. I want to do what's right. I want to, fulfill her request. She's 13. She needs her own space. And so I started moving and configuring the bedroom, moved the furniture around downstairs. There's a Lego room, and I started converting that into her new bedroom. Moved her desk down and everything else. And what I'm going to caution parents is, don't do those things. Keep the house, keep everything the way the children will remember it. If it's messy, let it be messy.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you change those things, you are breaking the tie with, in the children's emotion and in their minds to anything that was normal. You've removed the connection to normalcy. And that, I had no idea I was doing that. And it hurts. It hurts so hard knowing that the thing that I wanted to do for them, that I saw as being in their best interest, was basically taking them away from home forever.
That's
because
an interesting perspective, because what you meant well. I mean, you had the best of intentions in providing a room for her, but the effect was then not good on them.
Yeah. And so that's what you have to be under, you have to have a team of wise advisors,
Mm-hmm.
Wise counsel, not just legal counsel, but wise counsel to help you understand what's going on, because your perspective, it might be that the grass ends, but there's a cliff after that, and you might not see it.
Mm. Ethan, but that must be very, very difficult, because in some ways you need to move on with the situation and not be stuck. But in some way you need to hold on to the past and sort of keep things the way they are. How?
That's exactly what I'm working through, and I was working through last night. Mm-hmm. And to explain it to other parents that haven't been through this or are starting to go through it, there's duality. Two things exist at the same time. Mm-hmm. One is your identity of who you are and the things that you like to do. And then the other identity is that of a parent, which can't really be fulfilled. And so those two things are almost racing against one another. And you want to keep the house clean and leave things, do things for the children, but there are no children to do things for. It's like your children have all died, but yet they're still alive. And so you're grieving that process and trying to figure out, that attachment is being attacked by the distance and by the conversations. So when you talk to your children in parental alienation, they sound like little adults. They use words that don't belong in their mouths.
They've been coached.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and it's really unfortunate, because all those things, they basically, it's like taking a chessboard, shaking it. All the pieces fall down. That's what happens to all of the normal lines of communication, all the gestures, the loves, the affection, that you might give your children as they're waking up. You might kiss them, you might hug them, and good night, and all of those things are no longer normal. So where I find myself is really trying to understand what's next for me. Do I continue to fight? Do I continue to lead the charge, or do I just let go and be at peace?
It's almost an impossible decision to make.
It is. In order to work through it, though, I've identified some key, hurdles or obstacles. One is forgiveness. I have to be able to forgive. Forgiveness is like taking poison outside of you. If you have unforgiveness, it's just like it's going to eat you from the inside. And so I didn't think I had any unforgiveness but there's this uncomfortable displeasure of injustice and mercy, right? I could go take my children, but I choose not to. I could, sue the government, but I'm choosing not to. I could protest. I mean, so there's all these things that I could do, but not doing those is it's almost uncomfortable. So you have to work through those things, and it makes you a better person. The suffering, the long suffering, I don't know how anybody would do this without faith, but that's what's gotten me through.
Ethan, if I may ask, because it's something that's always very interesting in an alienation situation, where are the grandparents and the extended family on this? If you're at liberty to discuss that.
Absolutely. So the maternal grandparents are co-alienators.
Okay.
And what that means is that they are supporting the alienation tactics and behaviors, and which increases the manifestations of alienation in the children. Yes. So there's 17 alienating behaviors of the parent and 8 manifestations in the child. Those are great things to go look up. So the most of them are there. I think 15 of the 17 are there. They haven't started calling me by my first name yet, so that's a good sign. But yes, so the maternal grandparents, that relationship, I've been harassed by them, and I have so much evidence about it. But I don't wish them any ill. I just want them to leave me alone. My parents are unfortunately erased from the lives of my children as well. My big brother has been erased. Their aunt has been erased. All of my family and friends, the church has been erased from the lives of the children. So they no longer worship on Sundays at our church, and nor are they allowed to see those people. I mean, I had some people over, and my children stayed in their room. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's got far-reaching effects. It's not only the parents that are hurt by this. Grandparents, extended family, siblings, cousins, and it just goes. It just ripples out. It's incredible. So in your research, which I'm sure you've done a lot of, you've already cautioned parents not to change the home environment too much in an effort to do something. What else would you advise parents who, when you were realizing that this is happening, who are in the beginning stages of it, from your experience?
So you have, as a parent, you are now an advocate for your children who are not playing on the same team anymore. And to be an advocate, you must understand that parental alienation, although widely known, is not widely understood by 99% of medical professionals. Now I'm using that's not a statistic that I have from a medical journal. Just that's a rough order of magnitude estimate for me. Because of that, because of my experience, the pediatrician has no idea what's going on and has no understanding of how to address this. The children's allergists don't have any understanding of this. I've been accused of inducing stomach illnesses in my children and migraines and giving them foods they're allergic to. I mean, the accusations and allegations never stop. So you have to pick and choose your battles. But the most important battles that you become an advocate are, 1, in the legal realm, and 2, in the psychological realm. Any therapy that the children get while they're in the parental alienation experience field is going to reinforce the alienating manifestations in the child. So therapy doesn't work until they're out of the alienator's control. So therapists won't understand this. Psychologists, you have to go and you have to interview the psychologist. You have to become an expert, and there's resources out there. Is this counterintuitive or intuitive diagnosis? Well, it's counterintuitive, and if they're going to go about it regularly, they're going to misdiagnose.
Yes,
it's going to be it's going to be a parental estrangement, I believe is the term, instead of parental alienation. And you're basically estranged because of something that you've done, like one of the false allegations.
mm-hmm.
So you go into these interviews. How many, with a lawyer, how many parental alienation cases have you tried?
Mm-hmm.
How many have you won? Who are your expert witnesses that you've done this, that you've brought in? What are the questions that you asked them previously? And when you go through this process, if they don't give you these numbers, then you don't have the ability to prosecute this case, to litigate, because they don't have the experience. Mm-hmm. And so there's a great book by Ashish Joshi called Litigating Parental Alienation. And it's an expensive book. I bought it, and I'm starting to read through it now. It's very good. But there's other resources out there as well. And so when you talk to a psychologist, this is really an ethics issue. In the medical world, if they're not specialists, if they're not trained in a specific area, they shouldn't treat patients in that area. So if you have some sort of skin ailment and you go to your pediatrician, say it's cancer, the pediatrician is not going to be able to diagnose that cancer. They're not going to be able to treat that cancer. Mm. So you need to find a specialty that deals with that cancer, or in this case, parental alienation. And so there's things that you look for in the medical field. Journal articles. How many journal articles have they written about parental alienation? What is, you can quiz them on the counterintuitive, intuitive. You can talk about the 8 manifestations in the children, the 17 alienating behaviors. You can ask them, well, do you follow the attachment-based model of parental alienation that Childers supports? Do you even know who these people are? Like, which books do you use? Do you use the 5-factor model? Do you use the 4-factor model? So there's you can really get into it and figure out. The problem with that is that you're going to be tired of interviewing psychologists and custody evaluators, because frankly, not very many have the experience.
Yes, I was just about to say they're few and far between, these people who can give the right answers to those questions. So short of becoming an expert yourself, what do we do?
You hire an expert PA evaluator, and it ranges from 10,000 to 20,000 US, roughly, and that's when you're destitute because of the legal fees. That's a hard thing to swallow, a hard pill to swallow.
It's a very difficult situation. And Ethan, if I may ask, how is your relationship with your father, your own father, now after all these years? I
talk to him every day. My dad is down in Tampa, Florida, and he calls me every day to check in on me, and he's the relationship is loving. So from about age 20, 21, I'd say just after I got married, about age 24, he started calling me every day, and he wanted that relationship so bad, and that's why I tell parents, and I'm trying not to tear up here. That's why at the beginning of this year, I realized that I need to start calling my children. My dad, the fact that he calls every day, that fills in that hole in my heart that separation between my parents created. And so I need to do that for my children. I need to give them the memory of me trying to contact them and talk to them every day.
I think it's wonderful that you realized the importance of doing that, and that you're doing that, and then you have a wonderful example from your own father. How about your mother? How is your relationship with your mother now?
I have a stepmother, and our relationship is wonderful. My mother passed about 11 years ago, 12 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's interesting you bring up the mother, because my mother was also alienated
Mm-hmm.
from by my ex, from family events, from gatherings, from seeing the children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could have seen this if I had been more aware and understanding of these things, of
Mm-hmm.
family of origin issues and everything else.
Yes, that often plays a role.
Yeah.
And how do you look at this? If we see how history is almost repeating itself, how the cycle is repeating itself.
Yes, it really is. When children are taken from their parents, if they don't develop that bond, they develop those cluster B type personality disorders. From my reading. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not giving medical advice, but that's from what I gather. It's that first childhood bond with the parents that, if it's messed up, it causes all of those borderline and all of those personality disorders. So if they don't have that love, that bond of love, they can't love themselves. They can't feel love. And so that's why it's so important to have, there's I think 42 journal articles that I've got that support 50-50 equal and shared parenting. Children need both parents.
They do.
And they have the right to both parents. And they have the right to both parents, support from both parents. And so, going back to a question you asked, how is the legal system? Has it been fruitful, or has it been, unfruitful? And it's been really largely unfruitful, because because of all the challenges, as you're going through this and you're trying to love through and to repair these bonds that are broken, and to restore that 50-50 parenting. It's counter. It's not in the design or the plan that the government is currently operating by. In the U.S., we have Title 4D, and there's the Family Act of 1975, and basically these things go to create a matched funds program whereby the local governments get reimbursed for every dollar. I think it's $3 or $4 that they get reimbursed for the child support that's levied on working parents. And so it becomes a cash for kids program.
Yes.
And that's really, that's just like another stack of bricks upon my back, to find out that the system is against us. The system is against families. And that crushes me, because that's what makes a country strong.
There's a lot of conversation and debate going around in many parts of the world about the legal model for family. If you look at the way laws are constructed, the legal model is not necessarily a mother and a father with the children. There's like a mother and the children together as a unit, and then the father is set aside in many instances. Has that been your experience as well?
Yes, it has. Our parenting rights are inalienable. They are a right from God, a right to your children. Yes. And from the very minute of birth in the States, they're issued birth certificates, which are, basically held by the state. You only have a copy.
Yes.
So even from the very beginning, they fall into this legal model that doesn't match, the law of nature.
Yes. Yeah, very true. So what do you do, Ethan, to not lose hope? What do you do to get yourself through one day to the next?
Helping others. I have a background in teaching. And so if I really want to understand something, I teach it. And so if I really want, and I would apply that to this, if I really want to help myself, I go out and I help support others. There are people in the UK that I've been helping. There are people in the States that I've been helping. There's Chef Vanessa in Canada who's leading that charge. There's a lot of significant, significantly intelligent and loving people out there that will support us, and with knowledge, and they will spend time with you. They will encourage you, and so I just reflect that like a mirror. I reflect all that's good. I filter out all that's bad. So I'm always available. If somebody needs to reach out, they're feeling suicidal, call the suicide hotlines, but, call me. I'm not a trained professional, but, I know what you're going through. It's a never ending trauma.
Yes.
And that's tough. So with that, I'd also like to plug EMDR Therapy. EMDR Therapy has been tremendous for helping me heal from the wounds of my past and the wounds of the present. So it can't really address ongoing trauma, but if you have trauma related to custody, you can pull that out like a splinter with the EMDR Therapy. So
yeah, wonderful. Quite a good suggestion. Thank you for that, Ethan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm really, really honored to have listened to your story. Thank you so much for sharing it. I really appreciate it. And I know it's going to inspire many parents out there, and fathers in particular. We know that mothers go through the same thing. But thank you so much. And I wish you the very best. It's a tough road ahead of you, and it's a very, very difficult journey that you're on.
Thank you.
So I wish you all the best. And I love your expression, love it out. You have to just love it out. I'm going to take that one home with me, if I may, and share it. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
One last parting gift then. The love dissolves that evil entity inside them. You can't pull it out. You can't hate it out. You can't discipline it out. You can't pull it out. It's there. You just have to love it out.
Love it out. I love that. Yeah. True words. True words. Thank you so much, Ethan.
Right. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.